Welcome back to Bakers Bantering, and we have a mom right here, Miss Jen, right?
Yep.
Miss Jen. That's funny because I have a sister named Jenna, and friend Jenna. I got Jenna Teague.
Lots of Jens.
Lot of Jens for sure. Also, we got Jenna over here, and Mom goes by Valerie. Great name for that one. And we got Jack and Jake over there.
The power duo, Jack and Jake.
Yep, and another 2.0 wrestling buddies.
Yeah. 2.0 podcast producers.
Pretty cool.
I said wrestling buddies.
Okay, I'm
Right.
sorry.
We are the original.
Yep.
They are my 2.0.
I got it.
Ah,
2.0.
wow.
Anyway.
So, Jen, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited to be able to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, Jen.
Well,
I'm excited too. I can't wait to hear the story.
well, I bet you have a lot to say about your daughter Riley before we
Oh, so
jump to
much.
that. And Jen, I have some questions for that. I would answer every single one when she had.
But first,
But first, just to let you know, Jenna.
I think it's just Jen, not Jenna.
Just to let you know, Jen. I'm a version of Caleb Braxton. So, you let me know how I do, okay?
All right.
Kayla Braxton is a WWE interview host
Okay.
of sorts. So,
So
Derek's
I want to compare him
channeling
to.
his-
Okay.
yeah.
I'll
Are
check
you a
out that
WWE
interviewer and I'll
fan?
let you know.
Do you watch
Love it.
WWE, Jen? Nope. Okay.
Actually, my nephew is 19 and he also has Down syndrome and loves WWE, which is really, that's really
That is
funny.
so
Isn't that
awesome.
crazy? He loves John
That is
Cena.
so
He lives in
awesome.
Florida. And he's the only reason I knew what WWE was. And it's just so funny, Derek, that you have Down syndrome and you love WWE. Like, for real?
I know, I am OG wrestling fan for sure. Anyway, before we start to the conversation we're going to have, how you feel having the kids having lovely kids have Down syndrome and how that feels like as a mom? Is this cool like that, or is it scary, something like that?
In the beginning, I was scared when I got her diagnosis when I was pregnant, just because I didn't know what to expect. But I've made so many friends, and Riley has just made my life complete in so many ways.
You have 5 kids, yeah?
Yes.
So where does
Okay.
Riley fall in the order?
She is the middle child, and she is a middle child. She's smack dab in the middle, and she's a ball of fire, that one.
Well, she's definitely claimed that high. No complaints here. But
Derek's a middle child, but he doesn't like to claim being in the middle. He likes to tell people he's the youngest.
but Jenna thinks I'm in the middle of things.
No, that's just real. That's the truth.
Wrong.
Okay. Well, we won't talk about middle
we
or
don't have to
not.
argue about that.
But Jenna's 31. How old are you?
I will get to that in a minute.
Oh my goodness.
I never really claim become a middle child, but Riley knows things like that. By the way, I am 27 years old.
Yep.
Personally,
And our
Personally, I
sister
could be-
is 23, so you can, figure out what you will.
28 very soon.
So Derek's the youngest.
Yeah,
So
that
how
makes
old is
total sense.
Riley?
Riley just turned 5 in October.
Oh, wow. So
Wow.
how old are your kiddos?
I have
All of
one
them.
that will be 11 in December, 9, Riley 5, and then a 3 and a 1-year-old.
Wow, you are a busy, busy
Oh,
mom.
my house is crazy.
I'm
like-
sure it is. So that's a lot of kiddos under
And where
12.
do you guys live?
We're right outside of Boston, called Swampscott. It's the North Shore.
Oh, okay. Oh, I love Boston.
Boston's a
great.
great town. I love Boston too.
It's great. We try to do some
Wow.
stuff, but just with the kids and everything else, it's like, you should see us when we go somewhere. People are like, are they all yours? Especially because they're all so
Yeah.
little. And Riley looks like
Yeah.
my 3-year-old because she's weighs less than he does. So people think I have 2 twins, a baby, and 2 kids like running around. Like we're like,
Yeah.
So how many
perfect.
boys versus girls do you have?
I have girl, boy, girl, boy, girl.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow, wow, wow.
So
That's
Riley
awesome.
has 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
Wow.
That's super
Wow.
cool. They're
Right.
all very little people.
Yes.
Sounds pretty cool.
My 10-year-old thinks she's 21, but
Well, yeah, of course.
Wow.
She's the oldest, yeah?
she's
Yeah.
she's so cute with Riley. She's Riley's helper in dance. My oldest takes every form of dance there is, and Riley started dance when she was 3, and Grace is the helper in her class, so she takes all the typical dance classes. But Grace is her helper, so she loves doing that with her. She's
That's awesome.
Is Riley super flexible?
my goodness. She can. My daughter, my oldest cheers too, and Riley wants to do everything Grace does, so they do cheers at home. And Grace gets so jealous when she picks up Riley to do like some cheers. Riley can just take her legs and do a middle split, just
Yeah.
not even trying. She's
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
can't even get my middle split.
Derek used to be able to do that when he was a baby. Like he has just always been so flexible. And you can see how he's sitting. He sits crisscross applesauce, which the rest of us would, be in
Not doing
pain
that
by
chair.
the time
Riley
it's over.
she can
Wow.
just like bend in half. She can make herself so stiff, or she can make herself a wet noodle.
That's so relatable.
Yeah. For sure.
I should know about that.
Well, when you were little, if you were mad, you weren't moving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
like
would just,
the strength
yeah.
that comes out of this tiny little thing
yeah. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
crazy.
So you found out Riley was going to have Down syndrome when you were pregnant.
Yeah, I had the early blood test. I didn't get an amnio because they were trying to have me terminate her and everything else. It was just horrific.
Ugh.
They're like, well, usually we get an amnio if you want to do termination and blah blah blah. And I had high blood pressure the whole time, and it was all related to, because all my other pregnancies after were fine. It was all related to the stress of the way everything was delivered. But then she came, and
So
she
what was that like the first thing they said to you? Like how did they
they
deliver
called.
the news?
All they did was call me and say, because they test for like the 3 trisomies. Which the
Yep.
reason why I had to have it, I never did the blood test with any of my other kids, is because they found the fluid in the back of the neck on my 12-week ultrasound, and they said it's probably nothing. Let's just do this maternity 21 test. So I did that, and then the geneticist called and said you're negative for trisomy 13, trisomy 18, but the baby has trisomy 21. And I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, baby will have Down syndrome. Give the office a call. That was it. And then when I went back in, oh, it was terrible. I remember like just spiraling, you know what I mean? Just crazy. And then the doctor was just horrible. He did another ultrasound, and he said the markers are there, and she can have, heart disease. She can have cancer. She can maybe never walk, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people choose to terminate. And that's when I was like, no, I couldn't see that man anymore. I refused to see him.
I
he
can't
was
believe
just
that
so
happened
terrible.
still. Just 5 years
Still.
ago.
That it
5
like,
years ago.
It hurts, like it literally makes my whole body like cringe. So when they told you she had trisomy 21, was that on the phone or was that
On
a
the phone.
voicemail?
Just a
Okay,
phone call. And like then I'm like waiting because, you're pregnant and you're just sitting there waiting, like, well, what? Like, I couldn't, it wasn't like registering because I was just petrified because I didn't know what the heck, you know what I mean? Like when you just hear something like that, and they pretty much were like, all right, call, make an appointment to come have another ultrasound.
I like the fact that they would even deliver that over the phone is kind of like, doesn't make any sense to me. Like that just feels like something that should be handled with a bit more care
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Like they're trying to change that now.
gentleness. Yeah. So and then when the doctor was saying, you know, if you want to abort her, here's your options, was there any of the opposite, like, and if you
Not for
don't,
me.
here's a outlet, or here's a nonprofit to
No,
connect
not until
with?
she was born. And I actually, with our Massachusetts Down Syndrome Congress, have delivered to my midwife office, to the hospital, tons of pamphlets and things to show the positive. And I'm a member of the First Call Parents, the National First Call Center, where you can have somewhere to call and somebody to talk to, that they're going to give you, be an outlet, somebody to talk to, you know, because I had nothing, none of that. Now, when she was born, I got a bunch of info, but I had nothing until then.
I just can't believe we don't do better.
I
mean,
guess that they have been doing better. I think, honestly, I had a horrible guy. He was like 80 years old and he was stuck in his ways and he was just, oh, he was horrible. I picture his face and I'm like, I cringe.
yeah.
But like I said, I know there's the literature at the offices around here anyway. And we have, I mean, in Boston has the best Down syndrome programs too. Like, that's what really gets me, you know, because it's a Mass General Hospital I went through.
Right.
And
So you said you have a nephew who has Down syndrome too.
yeah, weirdly enough, my husband's brother's child has Down syndrome, and he's probably 18, 19 now.
So I wonder if because there are some cases
There
where
is
it
some.
is
We
like
need to do that. They're in Florida, like they're active
Heredity.
duty military, and we're up here, and I feel like we should see if it's translocation, I think it's called, or if we
Yeah.
were just both that lucky.
Yeah.
You know?
So you obviously, if he's, you know, almost 19 years old, you obviously like already had exposure and experience
Yeah,
with
I was
somebody
at buddy
who had
walks
Down
with him.
syndrome.
I've known him his whole life. I think I started dating my husband right before he was born. So, I mean, I've known him his whole life, you know, so I knew, and I'm like, I just couldn't. And I remember the fear that they were offering to abort her. I don't know if it was the Down syndrome or maybe me thinking that there was more to it, because I knew Ethan, you know what I mean? And it was just
Right.
so scary of like why, like the anxiety I had of why there was this option and why it was brought up. Like she does have CHD. She has a pacemaker now. I mean, that was actually the worst of it all when she was born, and they did tell me that. She needed heart surgery, but I mean, she's fine now. She's in preschool and she's a wild animal. You know?
And when did
Just
she
like
have
my other
heart
kids.
surgery?
When she was 4 months, and then a couple weeks after that, they get a pacemaker.
Yeah.
I
So-
have two questions just to share.
Yeah.
One, you are on TikTok, right?
Yes. I'm not as active on TikTok as I am on Instagram. I need to
Yeah,
get my game
we
together.
follow each other on Instagram.
Well, that's fair. And that's really cool. You're on TikTok, especially Instagram as well. Do you heard of the Costco guys?
Oh my
The
goodness.
Costco guys.
Who are the
Big
Costco
Costco.
guys?
Costco.
Big Justice.
These guys that
The boom.
Don't yell. Don't yell.
Yeah, these
Um,
guys that shop at Costco.
They go to Costco and they've got their little gimmick that they do in Costco. It's a father and son duo. And Derek's a little fixated on them at the moment because they're going to be at one of the wrestling shows this weekend.
Oh,
and he's
really? Well, I
very
gotta check them out. We love
excited about it.
Costco.
They are quite funny, and they clearly have a lot of fun together. But yeah, I don't know that they only make content related to Costco at this point, but the way that they got
I'm pretty sure that
big.
they do.
Well, I think they might make other content a little bit, but the way that they like really grew a following was going to Costco, and they'd show off these Costco finds, and they'd try different products, and then they'd yell boom, and Derek loves it.
I could watch videos like that all day. Fines and organization. That's my that I don't do.
I don't know how you could with
Well,
5 little kids at home.
my favorite is definitely Big AJ and Big Justice. So
Yeah.
I just want to shout them out real quick. So what's up? What's up? Big AJ and Big Justice. Let's bring a boom in AEW. So
There you go.
and gotta know how you fit in this digestion world right now. How what is it like?
Oh, here for me, I just went out on a mom's night with 4 other moms. One of them came in from Jersey that I met at the DSDN retreat. So I mean, I have so many friends. Locally, I have probably 6 friends within the Boston area that we can get together quite often with kids and without, and it's like a family.
And are their kids close in age to
Yeah, a
Riley?
lot of them are like they're all from like 4 to 6, the ones that I'm really
Yeah.
close with. So we're like we have a group text, and it's nice to have people that you can relate to for things with
Sure. Yeah.
school, and as
Yeah.
you know would know, with Derek when he was little. I mean, it's just different when they're
It's
going into
huge.
school and birthday parties and the anxieties and
Yep.
all that stuff.
I
So
feel like anxiety right now. I keep hacking.
Yeah. You got a little bit of a
it's the
cold going on
worst.
there, buddy. Well, so I would like to know, and this is something that I've tried to kind of rack my mom's brain a little bit, but it was so long ago for us that it's kind of hard for her to like recall how she navigated it. But I'm curious with you, like, how did you navigate the Down syndrome diagnosis and conversation with your other 2 kids and helping them understand and explaining it to them and that sort of thing?
Well, when I was pregnant, I was like just not even I don't even know if I was in denial. I was just literally almost depressed. It was so bad. When she was born, it was like ready, set, go, because we knew then we were in the NICU, we knew she was gonna have heart surgery, she was in heart failure, we couldn't feed her, a whole bunch of medical stuff for like the first 4 months. And then like my kids now, like they love Down syndrome. They're all very little still.
Right.
Um I'm starting to actually have to realize ways of um talking to them about things that kids might say,
Yeah.
like certain language, because last year my daughter was in 4th grade and somebody said sped and she came home asking what that was, and I lost my mind. Because my
Right.
kids don't that's she doesn't
They
know,
don't
and
hear it.
that's they don't hear it, they don't hear language like that. So my older two we're starting to talk more about our differences and how words
Yeah.
can hurt. And actually, also another funny thing is my 9-year-old son, since preschool, has went to school with a boy in town who has Down syndrome, and they've had play dates and everything else. And so he's grown up with a kid with that has Down syndrome, and he's just Liam to him. I wish
Right.
everybody can have that, but to him, he's just Liam. He's just his friend. Um, but yeah, I'm actually that was something I was going to ask you guys of growing up with, like, as siblings, how things
Yeah.
went for you, like the obstacles you overcame as you grew up. Because I'm feeling like people are going to say something that's going to put one of my kids in a predicament where they're going to have to speak up and be, you know what I mean? They're going to have to speak up and say, you can't talk like that, or they're gonna feel bad for not saying something if somebody says the R word, or if somebody says, because it's all gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's gonna.
Oh, it's definitely going to happen. Yeah, I think, so Derek and I weren't close enough that I was really I didn't go to middle school or high school with him, which is where I feel like it really kind of comes to a head, I guess. I just don't really recall it happening a ton in elementary school. I don't know if you remember anything differently.
No, I think it was kind of like you said about your son. Like Derek was just Derek to all the kids in elementary school, right? I
That's
mean,
awesome.
he was just Derek and everybody knew him. Nobody that went to school when he was there didn't know who he was, right? Everybody knew Derek.
And
And
it was okay.
it was okay. And everybody was very kind, for the most part. I think we had a really wonderful principal when Derek went into kindergarten, and he kind of set the tone for the school. Like, hey, this kid's going to come and we're going to accept him and we're going to make this work.
That's
And it
great.
just filtered down through, everybody, the teachers and the students and everything. And so, I think that one of the things that I think was the most helpful about our schooling experience for him was we were in one location from kindergarten through graduation, right? There was no movement of schools. There was no
Mm,
new kid. I mean, there was kids coming in and out,
yeah.
but the core group of kids, I mean, there was probably, he probably had a graduating class of like, what, 300 or 400?
Well, not 400, but yeah,
300?
over 300, yeah.
And probably 80 of them he went to school with from kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
So, and then they all came together in 6th grade and then went from 6th through 12th together. And so there was a lot of angels in that group who just loved Derek for who he was and, kind of stood up for him if he needed it.
Yeah. What's the age difference between your second child and Riley?
4 years.
My top 2
4
were
years?
9 and 10, and Riley's 5. So, but my 3-year-old, Riley starts kindergarten next year. My 3-year-old will turn 5 the year after. So they're only going to be a grade apart. My
Yeah, I was
Jameson.
gonna say, I have a feeling her younger brother is actually gonna be the one that might deal with specifically standing up for her, because for me, I think once it got to the point where I did understand and I would get upset when I would hear certain words or certain things, or I would see someone mistreat somebody who was similar to Derek or like wasn't able to stand up for themselves, like I did take on that. Like I had this sense of responsibility that I felt that I was like, if I don't stick up for this person, how can I expect somebody else to stick up for my brother when I'm not around?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did kind of have this sense of, responsibility that I felt like I had to say something and to do something. And to be honest, I made enemies in high school because I was willing to stick up for somebody who wasn't capable of sticking up for themselves. And so it was kind of this weird juxtaposition where I had a lot of friends, but there was also a lot of people who didn't like me because I was not afraid to speak my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I also got nominated for prom court one year when I thought a lot of people didn't like me, but turns out a lot of people who weren't necessarily like the popular kids did like me because they saw that I was willing to be nice to everybody and that I was willing to stick up for people. And I was
It's not even that
like,
hard. Why can't everybody be like that?
It's
Right.
just like you weren't gonna make fun of somebody in front of me who couldn't stick up for themselves, and especially if they had a disability or if they were clearly different in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and I don't know that I did the best job at this, but what I would say for your older kids, and this is something that I learned as I navigated encountering those ignorant people, is that you have the ability to change those people's mind a lot more if you come at them from a firm but peaceful place.
Mm-hmm.
So there were times where I got mad and I was angry and I was not in control of my emotions, and trying to change whoever was on the receiving end of those emotions, trying to change their mind, didn't work very well. But when somebody said something in front of me, once I learned how to control my emotions and once I learned how to approach it in a more mature way, if somebody was saying something in front of me and if I could come at them in a more respectful manner and be like, I don't appreciate you using that word in front of me. I don't think you should be treating this person this way. Like, you're still advocating for somebody else, but when you do it in a way that is more calm and more respectful, you teach somebody a lesson easier.
Yeah.
And
You
that
wanted
was
this
something
lash.
and that was something that I think took me a while to learn, because a lot of times when I was younger and more immature and less in control of my emotions, I would just lash out at people, and I wouldn't doubt it if at times I said hurtful things back, but that's
And that's
not really
kids,
the
too.
way. Right. But looking back, if I could give, my high school self advice and how to navigate that in a better way, I would tell myself to be more calm about whatever it is that I wanted to convey to other people. Because I think the way to actually make a difference in somebody's mind is to sincerely try and teach them, not just attack them for their ignorance.
Mm-hmm. No,
If that makes sense.
That does make tons of sense. And it's hard for adults too, as you know. Like sometimes you just want to.
I think that more people would have been responsive to my message had I been a little less aggressive about it at times when I was younger. So maybe
No,
you can teach your kids differently.
I know because
Not that you taught me bad, but I just don't know that we even had the conversation. Like,
yeah, I don't know that we really did. I think it just, at least for Jenna, being, so much, she's 3.5 years older than Derek, and she's 5 years ahead of him in school?
Yeah.
4 years ahead of him in school.
When I graduated high school, Derek was coming into high school the following year. So I never went to school with him after elementary school.
Yeah. I think it was just innate with her. But she had some problems of her own with people bullying her in middle school pretty bad. And
kids are the worst.
Yeah, she kind of seized the power back from them and said, I'm not putting up with your crap. And became a very confident young girl who was not going to take shit from anybody. And that was probably around 7th grade, I think.
Yeah, well, my mom taught me how to stick up to this girl. And I was terrified. Like, I remember I would come home, like, crying. And she kept trying to encourage me about how I needed to stick up to her and tell her what I thought. And, like, she wasn't telling me to do it in an aggressive way. She was just telling me to say, you're not going to treat me like this. And it took a lot of coaxing to get me to the point where I was capable of it. And she had me call her up on the phone. And I said, I don't appreciate the way you're treating me. I'm not going to continue to do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. And the girl just crumbled. And I think, yeah. And I think I learned in that moment that people who put on this front of putting down others, they don't have anything to stand on, you know?
Nothing.
And if you are capable of saying, no, you're not going to treat me like that, then they're not going to treat you like that. And so once I kind of learned that lesson on my own,
I mean, this girl was, I mean, she was just the typical bully is just trying to make themselves feel good. And when you take the power back and say, you're not going to make me feel bad, I don't care what you think, then they can't do their thing. And so
it's so hard to say that to kids. Like my daughter just started middle school, and I know that stuff's going to start, you know?
It is. It's very hard. I sat there and held her hand, and while she made the phone call and said, I'm done. I don't care if you're my friend. Don't talk about me. We're done. So I think that for her, it just came kind of after that whole thing happened. It was like she had no problem telling others, hey, that's not how we treat people. That's not who we are. That's not nice. We're not going to do that. And I think for her, it just kind of came somewhat naturally.
Yeah, it did come naturally. I just think that I would have potentially
could have delivered it better at times.
I think I could have delivered it better at times. And I think that at times it was like the confidence got so big that like I was a little aggressive in my response rather than actually
coming from a place of kindness.
Yeah. And I think I would have maybe made a bigger impact on some people had I been a little bit more soft in my delivery of whatever it is I thought in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too, believe me.
I think we all are.
Yeah. And I just think you can make a bigger impact when you use your words in a respectful way rather than in a aggressive way.
Yeah.
So when you did find out that Riley was going to have Down syndrome and you got, I want to know kind of like what was that conversation like with your husband and how you guys decided to move forward together, and then also like how did you talk to your families?
After that conversation, he was right there with me, and I remember breaking down in the kitchen, and he's like, we're gonna get through this no matter what. That's our baby. Was pretty much it. But like I said, I think the rest of my pregnancy, my mother and my mother-in-law knew that I had a high likelihood from that maternity test that she'd have Down syndrome, and that's pretty much all I said, and I didn't talk about anything else. I was just like waiting for a shoe to drop the whole pregnancy. It was horrible. Because more times, every time I go to an appointment, they like, if it wasn't my normal midwife, they rotate through doctors now. Like, I wouldn't always see the one midwife that I've loved, that I've seen through all my pregnancies. I'd see like a random gynecologist. She'd be like, I see the baby um has a high likelihood of trisomy 21 and you're moving forward with the pregnancy. I'm like, no shit, I'm sitting here. Why are you asking me this again? Like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, little, like, why does it have to be reminded to me that
Little
I'm moving
pokes
forward?
almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why are I'm sitting here? I'm 27 weeks pregnant. Obviously, do they want me to change my mind? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, to think that somebody's just not worth it because of an extra chromosome, I don't understand it. And to meet
Yeah.
Riley, you could not imagine a world without her. Her teachers don't want to lose her at preschool. Like, they're like, like, she's
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the joy that these kids bring into anybody who's around them. I mean,
oh,
it's
she's so
just
funny, so sassy, so sweet. And I mean, just everything wrapped up in a little 30-pound ball,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
will Riley go to the same elementary school that your older two
Yeah.
kids are at?
We have a really good inclusion program so far. Like I said, there's another child with Down syndrome in our town. We're a very small suburb of Boston, but they have full inclusion so far up to third grade. He's what I watch because he's in my son's class. I see how I talk to his parents all the time and how they do things. He has a couple pullouts, but he's fully included in everything. He
Love
plays
that.
baseball with all the kids in town. Um, so I have a lot of hopes for her. And like I said, Riley's actually doing the North Shore Nutcracker. She's going to be a little party girl with her big sister this year too. So I'm just hoping she doesn't bolt off stage.
She's gonna steal the show, is what she's gonna do.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm so
So
excited
Derek
for
was
that.
in the what was it? The Adams Family in high school, and he was actually, there was multiple people, but he was supposed to be playing a tree. And generally speaking, unless it's windy, trees don't move. But Derek as a tree stole the show. And he's like, the two main characters are on stage and they're having this song, and there's a kiss at the end of the song, and it's like this whole thing. And there's Derek with his pretend branches, and he's dressed up like the tree, and he is just singing the song. And I have to imagine, like, I don't know because we weren't close enough, but I have a feeling that he was legitimately belting it out at the same time.
That's
Were you
great.
singing out
Stealing
loud?
the show.
Do you remember? Were you singing it out loud?
He's
Yeah.
like, I'm hacking up right now.
I know. I'm sorry you're not feeling well, buddy. So how does Riley do with her younger siblings?
Her and Jameson are potty training together because Riley reverted. We're doing a whole home reno, all this stuff. So those two are frickin' frack. Like I said, my 3-year-old is bigger than she is. They're in preschool together. They are like BFFs. And then my 1-year-old, Riley thinks she can carry her around and, change her diaper, do all those things that she shouldn't be doing, but they're great. And her older siblings just love her and play with her, and she drives them crazy and steals, their toys, their PlayStation controllers, all that stuff. Just like anything else.
Does she talk a lot?
Riley, does she
Yeah.
talk? Yeah, her speech is really coming along now. My 3-year-old has far surpassed her. But what's really sweet is he knows what she's saying. So if she's
That is
saying
cute.
something and somebody doesn't know what she's saying, he says, Riley said this.
Oh my God, I love that.
So
That's
it's
so
like
cute.
like I said, those two were like thick as thieves. They get into so much trouble together. They're going to be a year apart in school. Like, I'm so happy she has him and he has her, but because that's he says Rywe, like that's his Rywe. And they're just so cute together. They walk in hand to school. And actually, the one who doesn't want to hold hands a lot is Riley. When she's in a sassy mood, she'll say, no, I do myself, and walk in.
Yeah, I love
She's
that.
like, not today.
Yeah, not today.
So what has maybe like surprised you the most about your journey with Riley and being a part of the Down syndrome family community?
Most surprising thing is I mean, how hard and not hard it is at the same time, if that can even make any sense.
It
Because
absolutely makes sense. Makes sense to this mom.
yeah, because like there's so much. She has so many medical things and doctor's appointments and all of her therapies, her IEP stuff, the anxiety of her life and everything she's gonna go through that on me. But also like she makes life so easy because she's so perfect. And she makes us so happy. Like and everything
And
is
does
easy to her.
she
It's simple. Like that's
yeah.
let's just be like Riley. It's
Yeah,
simple.
let's just be happy and love each other. I mean,
Yeah.
does she give the best hugs?
The best hugs, especially when
I mean,
if she wants to. But when she
well,
really
yeah.
gives you a hug, it's like
Yeah.
the best hug ever.
It like
It's
drains the stress from me.
it's yeah.
Even today, if I'm like completely stressed out about something, I'm like, Derek, I just need a hug. And he'll
Yeah.
give me a hug and I can just feel the stress draining away from my body. Like
Mhm.
he
Yeah, she
gives
gives
the
like
very best hug
it's
still.
different than the rest of my kids.
Yeah.
It's like she sinks
It's
into you or something.
yeah, yeah. Just the
Best
absolute
baby
best hugs.
naps too. Like I could still remember the feeling of her on my chest. She felt different than all my other kids when she was born.
Oh,
When
babies with
she's
Down syndrome. Oh, sometimes my fiance has to tell me to stop staring in public when I see somebody with Down syndrome. He's like,
I'm
you're
like a
probably
creep
making that
about it. I'm
family
like, people probably
uncomfortable.
think I'm nuts.
I
Yeah.
know. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm thinking negatively because I'm actually thinking, can I please hold your kid?
Yeah.
I'm
Can I
actually like,
please
can
hug
I
your
be your best
child?
friend? But yeah, sometimes he has to be like, okay, you need to stop. You need to stop. And I'm like, okay, sorry.
Well, funny thing is, like I said, I have a bunch of mom friends where our kids are all close in age, and a friend of mine's son Wyatt was having his birthday party at an aquarium, and she invited all the extra lucky friends, so it was all of us, like with our 6, 7 kids with Down syndrome, and we saw this other mom there with her kid at the same aquarium. She had Down syndrome, so we all like swarmed over her. Like we're like the like crazy moms who all got lucky few tattoos together and everything. And this lady thought we were nuts. She was like she's backing her way out of there. Like, all right, our kids have Down syndrome, but I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
but
all
I don't
right.
know you.
Because we're like, hey, you want, like, what's up? Come on, be one of our friends. Like, she was like, wow, lady, all right.
Oh. Well, she's missing out. I
I
mean,
know, but I mean, like,
we're
it's
actually having
99% of it. I think we were just a little, like, want to get happy
Aggressive.
tattoos.
yeah. We're
Like,
actually
overly
having dinner
excited about it.
tonight with a couple of Derek's buddies. And one of the kids, Derek was in diapers. He and Derek were in diapers together in a parent infant class when they were under 3 years old. And that's how long we've been friends with this family. And they both have Down syndrome. And then the other young man he became friends with that family. We've known them since, he was 12, 13, 14, something like that. So, yeah, we're having dinner with his buddies, Nick and Brandon, tonight. And it's, there's just, it's nice to have people who get it, because there are some hard things about having a child with a disability. And some of it is external pressures, and different things that we have to do for the schooling and medical and all this other crap, right? And some of it is, and it wasn't so bad when he was little and I could just pick him up and he was going to go where I told him. But right now he's, weighs more than I do. And so sometimes he can be a little strong-willed, and there's those kinds of challenges that we have to deal with, right? So it's nice to have people in your corner who can understand, like others just can't.
Yeah, people try. I mean, I say like my kids' football and cheer games, like sometimes it's just so hard because she just runs, and people probably think I'm nuts. And then I put a 5-year-old in a stroller because I can't do anything else, and nobody
Right.
seems to understand. You know what I mean? They're like,
Right.
give her something, and she'll sit. And like, no, she's not going to. Like Riley bolts.
Right.
But then when I talk to my other friends that have kids with Down syndrome, they're like, feel it. They know things like that.
Yeah.
It's
So when did you start posting on social media?
probably, let me think. I mean, I've always always made videos and pictures of my kids and stuff online, but I think probably when Reels really started coming out, I think I started sharing. That's when I think I wrote something for like Love What Matters. Like I really started being more vocal about how I felt because like I said, I held a lot of it in when I was pregnant. And then I was just like, no, I'm going to just start sharing her and I don't care. And I wrote like a little article about my diagnosis and everything else. And then I started making little videos with her. And then, she started liking wearing the outfits that people were sending and making more videos. And here we are. Now she's modeled like professionally for a couple times so far. We're waiting for another call back.
Oh, awesome. That's so cool.
That's so cool. I know Love What Matters. So you wrote an article for them about just like your experience and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And after I did that, they shared it. And then like, I think I made like a picture with that. And then I started making videos and it just, just all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
we're doing this.
So if you could go back and like, I mean, you said after you got the diagnosis, you kind of like fell into a depressive time during your pregnancy. If you could go back and give that version of yourself advice or hope or knowledge, wisdom, like what would you tell that version of yourself?
That it's going to be okay. And that's what I try to tell anybody online, like that's messaged me that they're pregnant. That's, the reason why we all share so much is just because we know now,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
so hard to if you could go back you would, but it's so hard to get that through some people too. Like people would tell me and I'd see, and I had a little bit of comfort in that if I look things up, but I also looked at all the bad and the horrible things you see on Google and just I have high anxiety to begin with, but if I could go back and be like, it's going to be okay. She is going to be the best thing that has happened to you and your family, you know but
I
you
know.
can't go back in
It's
time.
hard.
I wish I could.
Yeah, it's hard. It's so true.
No,
It's
so
scary.
true.
I mean, it is scary. And I had a cousin with Down syndrome, right? So I wasn't.
And she didn't find out until Derek was
born. Yeah, he was born, and we got the diagnosis. He was 5 days old. But, and of course, I mean, there's 22 years difference here in the, when they were born. But it is hard. I mean, it's not what you expect, right? It's not the pregnancy that you planned. It is not the baby that you planned. But it's beautiful and wonderful and magical
and so joyful
in its own
goodness.
Right.
Mhm.
It's amazing. You have to give yourself time to find that place where you're okay with it.
Yeah. Well, I also think truly it makes everyone that Derek is surrounded by is a better person because they have a relationship with Derek.
Mhm.
And I just 2 days ago, I was frustrated and I was in a mood and I was talking to Chris and he's like, well, I understand why you're frustrated, but you have so much patience, you're going to be okay. And he was like, and he's like, you got way more patience than I do. And honestly, he probably has more patience now that he's been in our lives for 6 years, but there is just so many aspects that make me who I am that would be different without having Derek as my brother. And your kids are going to experience the same thing. And Riley's not going to be the only one that makes a positive impact on the people around them. Like all 4 of your other kids are going to make this world a more inclusive place because Riley is their sister.
Oh, that's so great to hear from me, like to hear you as a grown sibling. It's just, that makes me feel so happy. Because I always wondered
it's
about my other
true.
kids.
It is true. It is true.
It's absolutely true. So, okay, Derek, let me know if you're comfortable talking about this. But before we started, we were waiting a couple minutes on Mom, and you asked Jen a question. Can we revisit that conversation? Because I bet Jen would have some good advice for you. Do you remember what you asked, Jen? Can we go there?
No.
No.
No. Oh, you're going to leave the listeners hanging? How about I just go there and you don't have to talk about it?
Can I step out first?
Oh my God. I don't want you to step out. I want you to hear Jen's advice.
It's fine. You say you have to say.
Okay, well, fill up your water bottle while you go, since you got a scratchy throat. Okay. All right. Well, since Derek will listen back to this, so maybe that way you can deliver your advice. But Derek is, well, you explain.
Well, he's been having just these chronic sinus issues.
As you can see, he's having them today.
It's like I get him kind of cleared up, and then he's snotty again, and then we get it cleared up, and he's snotty again. And so it took me 6 months finally to get him into an ENT. He got let go by his pediatric ENT probably 15 years ago, and the doctors never said, "Hey, you should take him to see an ENT again," and I don't know. Anyway, here we are. He's 27, and so I'm like, I'm taking him to see my ENT. And so I took him in, and they've recommended a tonsillectomy and an adenoid removal for
Riley
him.
had both
And
of those.
thinking it would clear, because they got these tiny nasal passages, and then you got this extra stuff in there. It just makes everything harder. He said his tonsils, they rate them from a 1 to 4, 1 being the smallest, 4 being the largest. And he's like, his are definitely a 4. Mine were the same. I had to get mine out when I was a teenager. She got hers out when she was a teenager. Huge, huge tonsils. And so anyway, he's nervous. And of course I'm nervous. Any surgery is a little nerve-wracking, but I do think it's really going to help with his sleeping and all these sinus issues and, all this other stuff.
And Riley, it seemed to, do we have another sleep study coming up? I can't remember honestly, but she has apnea and her tonsils were big, her adenoids were big. They were watching them, and then they said, because she was just getting sick so much, to get them out. So they did, and they did a bronchioscopy, so she also has a cleft that they found. We haven't done anything about that, but she had a swallow study after, and they said it's still okay enough to wait and see. But her sickness, knock on wood, has been better. Last year, she was out like 60 days, they said, at preschool.
Wow.
How long ago did she get her
Last year.
out?
Last year.
Yeah.
And I mean,
And
she
how was her
seems to be
recovery?
handling. It's 2 weeks, like they said. I mean, it was hard to get things in her, to get the medicine in her. And you have to stay ahead of it.
The pain.
Just chase the pain, yeah. So whatever they're going to give
Yeah.
him, make sure he stays ahead of it. Because once she starts feeling pain, then she won't swallow it, and then the pain gets worse. But if they just stay on their medicine, which they give you whatever probably tastes good, I'm sure they'll give you liquid because of the throat. But you'll feel so much better after.
Am I remembering this correctly? When I got my tonsils taken out, is that when they gave me the wrong prescription?
I don't remember.
You don't remember this?
I don't remember.
There was they had given me the dosage of somebody who was way bigger than me. Don't you remember this?
I don't remember.
It was like I was like a junior in high school or something.
Yeah, I mean, this is like 14 years ago.
Yeah, but it was like a big deal. Yeah. And I was like, there was something, I was so sick. Remember, I was throwing up from the medicine. And it was like hurting my stomach so badly because they had me on such a high dosage, and you had to like call them and be like, there's something wrong. She's throwing up every time I'm giving her the medicine, but she's in so much pain, yada, yada.
Oh,
and then they like asked her how much I was taking, and they're like, oh my God, how big is she? And and I was like taking enough for like a 230-pound man, and I was not that big. and then they were like, no, and they cut my dosage like significantly, and then I was better. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
I believe you.
I'm surprised you don't remember this.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So recently they took family photos, and she sent me a picture. So you have to tell us this story. Look how freaking cute Riley is.
This is all on her own when they asked for separate pictures of the kids.
Oh my God, she is adorable.
Look at the hand on the hip. Like, she's 5.
Oh my God.
This is why she's modeling.
She is precious.
You should see her when we go. Like, I'm always so afraid if she gets a modeling job. She just did Even Flow for a car seat. And when she walked in there, she got her hair done, her makeup done, walked on set. Like, was done earlier than they thought. I mean, she was the only child with a disability there. We have a regular agent. Like, we don't have, you know what I mean? And she walked in, owned that set, cheese, got out, did whatever they, and was just strutting her stuff, man. I mean, she is just something else.
I love it.
Does she steal the spotlight from her siblings?
Is she what?
Does she steal the spotlight from her siblings?
Yeah, she does, but they also love it.
They're okay
I mean,
with
Jameson actually will try to steal it back off of her, like especially if I'm making like an advocacy reel or something, like Jameson, my 3-year-old, jumps in front of her a lot. He's 3 and he's just like, me too. But my older kids are all about it, like they love getting her to excited to do dances and cheers and whatnot.
Well,
But
Derek and I graduated the same year, but I was graduating college and he was graduating high school. So we were having a joint graduation party, but he graduated on a Tuesday. I graduated on a Sunday. So, of course, Tuesday was all about him. We went to the graduation, we went to dinner, all the things. But then the Sunday rolls around and it's my graduation. And Derek was so mad that everybody was focused on me. And he's like, well, what about me? I'm graduating too. And we're like, Derek, today's Jenna's graduation. Like, you're not getting on stage. You're not putting on a graduation gown. Like, today's not your day. And he just could not believe it.
Yeah.
I don't
want to
think we
share the
have it on
spotlight.
video because we didn't record everything as much as we do now. But he gave this graduation speech at my lunch that day. And you definitely would have thought he was the graduate. I remember being like, I thought I'm the one walking across stage today. So sometimes I don't really need the spotlight like Derek needs the spotlight, but every once in a while I got to fight him for it. Like, I've been telling him ever since I got engaged, I've been having to remind him that you do know my wedding day is about me and Chris, right? Like, you're a supporting actor that day. You're not the main character. But
that is your sister's day.
He's not sure about that one. Okay, so did you have something you wanted to say?
He just said,
Oh, okay. He's just grunting at me. That's okay. So I just wanted to, we do have to wrap up, but I just wanted to ask you, like, why, like, what does Down syndrome awareness and representation and the importance behind that, like, what does that mean to you and your family?
It means so much. Some like I get some people on like online that are like, why? Because you know how there's all these trolls and people that say horrible things. Why are you even sharing her? Like, the internet hates people with Down syndrome, not the world. I'm like, the world is the internet, and she has a place. She's a person. We all have a place. She has a place in whatever she decides to do with her life. I mean, yes, she's a little child right now, but she's modeling, and she's modeling for parts that aren't asking for a child with a disability. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just putting her there and they're giving her a chance and she's just showing these other kids that she could do it.
I love
And
it.
I'm going to keep pushing it, and I'm going to, some people are like, you're jamming her down our throats. I'm like, well, you know what? Then you could just hit the unfollow button or just know that she has a place, and this mom is not going to stop.
I love that. Yeah. Do you remember when you found Baker Banter on social media?
I believe I was just scrolling. It might have been right when I was, because I didn't do TikTok. And I mean, my TikTok is like, it's okay, but I just don't put much on it. I think I found you on Instagram and then I went to your TikTok and I was like, my kids were like, they are hysterical. So it was probably 3-4 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah,
My
we
kids were
started
like,
in
this
2020.
family is hysterical. They're like, this is going to be us when we're older.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You're going to have even more chaos on your hands.
Yeah, because you got 5 instead of 3.
We've got 3 and Derek's got a couple imaginary siblings, but they don't cause nearly as much ruckus as the rest of us.
Oh, I love the imaginary siblings. My 3-year-old had a bug on his toe for about an hour. He's the one that's going to have the imaginary siblings because he does things like this all the time. Mom, there's a bug on my toe.
Does Riley have any imaginary friends?
No, I don't know, because her speech is still coming along. She does tons of pretend. But yeah, my son with the bug on his toe. And then I'm like, well, where's the bug now? He goes, oh, we left. I was like, oh, okay.
Well,
right.
And we get feedback about that. People are like, why do you let him do that? And I'm like, what do you mean let him? Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, he's just doing his thing and we're just here. Like, and the thing about Derek's imaginary siblings is Derek processes everything out loud. And I'm very much the same. I think you're probably the same. Like, I do not internalize my feelings. In order for me to get over something, I need to talk about it in some capacity.
That's a good way to be.
Yeah, and that's how Derek is. And so with his imaginary siblings, we'll hear him like go in his room and he'll have a conversation with his imaginary sister or his imaginary brother. And a lot of times those imaginary siblings are steering him in the right direction of, well, Derek, maybe you were wrong, or, well, Derek, maybe you shouldn't have yelled at your sister like that, or, well, maybe mom's right and I can do this, and that sort of thing. And I think that that's just his way, like, that's just how he processes it.
And that's fine. You can let him do it the way he wants to do it, you know?
I did want to ask you too, how does Riley do with a change and like routine changes and things like that?
I don't think very well, because with our home renovation, like, we were all in the girls' room at one point because we were like cutting half the house off, adding more on, and it just wasn't typical. And there was noise all day, and then we didn't have a kitchen, and she was just a little extra sassy, which is hard when she's already so sassy. And just, it's just reverting back on a lot of things, like her potty training. So now she's doing it which she's doing great. I just let her start again with my 3-year-old, and now they're both doing so great. But we're back to normal. And the same thing with dance too. Like I said, she doesn't go to any kind of special dance class. She goes to just a typical dance studio. And when her teacher's not there, her one teacher that's really good with her, she's real strict and she has everything set. That's what Riley needs. If like a student teacher's subbing, Riley's running out of class, Riley's not listening, Riley, you know what I mean? Like, structure, what's expected.
Yeah.
And we do
and I think
way better.
Derek was like that too, and it was hard for him when, like, even just like, if there was a Monday where we didn't have to go to school, like, that was
getting him to go back to school on Tuesday was just
like,
hell
it's very
wheels.
like, I'm noticing that. I mean, she'll just flat out say no too, and I'm like, kid, I'll pick you up, we're going.
Yeah.
But I think as he's gotten older, Derek has gotten more accustomed to flexibility, and that sometimes things change and sometimes routines have to change, and that's gotten easier and easier. I did want to offer you the chance though, you're 5 years into your Down syndrome experience, and we've got a veteran 27 years into the Down syndrome experience over here. So I did want to, if you have any questions or anything you want, some feedback or advice on, like,
my hardest thing right now, which I don't know if Derek was a bolter when he was little, is he wasn't? Oh, okay. Well,
not really.
It's the hardest thing.
That's scary. He did
ever.
hide from me a couple times. Like we'd be at a store, right? And he would hide. He thought that was fun, and then I couldn't find him, and of course, then I'm losing my freaking mind. But he wasn't a runner. He doesn't like.
He's still not a runner.
He's still not a runner. He does not like. He does not like to move. But there may be some people out there who have experienced that.
And all the specialists say it will go away. You know, but it's.
Yeah. I would imagine it's hard now, but maybe a good thing about it is that she's likes to run, because being active and moving his body and being physical is something that Derek really struggles with, but how important it is for them to move, and with their muscle tone being such a struggle and that sort of thing. So maybe someday it will be a blessing in disguise, because she does have that urgency. Yeah, because being active is very difficult for us to get him to do, and I think that if we could have a little bit more of that in our world, we would all benefit. But we do our best. But okay, I did just want to say, and as you're starting the education full-fledged into elementary school next year, the one thing that I always tell people that I have heard my mom give advice on, that I think is so crucial and so important, is just that you have the ability to tell the education system no, and that whatever their plan is, if you don't think it works for you, if you don't think it pushes Riley enough, if you don't think it's inclusive enough, you have the ability to say, I don't like this plan, let's figure out another one. And I think that is just, and I always tell people, like, I don't know where she got that piece of advice or where my parents decided that that's how they were going to raise Derek. But the reality of it is, Derek is going to be surrounded by people with a higher IQ than him for the rest of his life, as is Riley. And it's so important for their development that they are surrounded by that type of person from a young age, and that it continues to be that way. So I just wanted to share that with you before we say goodbye here.
I hope I'm nervous for that. She has an IEP now for preschool, but I mean, her teachers are actually like friends of mine, and they've taught my older kids, and I trust everything with them. And it's preschool, it's different. Once she starts kindergarten, the anxiety, I'm so nervous over it all.
I've heard her say a lot, a lot of times the educators will try to come up with a plan that feels easiest for them, but it might not be what you think is best for your family and for Riley. And so I just wanted to kind of give you that piece of knowledge that, if you don't like it, it might be harder. It might not be the path of least resistance, but
and it won't be. And I have to just suck it up and know that that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, but I also think you've got a lot of positive factors on your side here. One is you've got 2 kids in the school, right? So you already have relationships with, I'm sure, many of the administrators and teachers and whatever. The other huge thing is Liam.
Yep.
This is not their first rodeo.
I always tell his parents, I'm like, you guys are like, you're paving the way for me.
Yeah,
keep it up.
It's true. It's true, because Katie had a young man with Down syndrome in her class, and Katie's 4 years younger than Derek, and we're still friends with that family. They're invited to Jenna's wedding, know, and having that person go in front of you, the school is going to have much more open arms. But just know that you don't have to agree with everything they say. If something's not working, if something doesn't feel right, you're the best advocate for your child when they're that age. You got to just, bite the bullet and say, hey, that doesn't work for me. And what about this instead? Or let's brainstorm another idea or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're always here, Jen. This is a journey, for us moms who have kids with disabilities, and if something comes up and you ever want to reach out and say, hey, did this ever happen? Know that we're always here for you as a resource in any way that we can help.
Thank you.
Just reach out and I can only tell you about my experiences with Derek, but I'm happy to share and help any family who has a child with Down syndrome at any age, if they feel like
that's what's so awesome about this community.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a blessing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to tell our listeners where they can find you?
Oh, sure. J McCormick 526 on Instagram, or Riley's Designer Jeans on TikTok, which I need to get back on.
It's okay. It's hard to keep up with.
Thank you guys so much. It was great talking with you guys.
So nice to meet you.
Yes.
You as
so
well.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
I hope you feel better, Derek.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, buddy. Your voice does sound like you're struggling.
I know, he's sounding worse.
I know. We'll hop off here so maybe Derek can go take a nap. But thank you so much for joining us. Find us on all the platforms at Baker Banter. Find Derek on Snapchat and Cameo at Baker Banter. Cameos make a great Christmas gift, and that's coming up. And Derek is very hilarious and loves Christmas, so you guys should check it out. Find my Etsy store at the link in our bio, JBJ Creative. And like, share, subscribe, leave a positive review, and we will talk to you guys next time. Peace.